Rain lashed against the windows of Ethan Wilson's Seattle home, a relentless drumbeat that matched the unease clawing at his chest. When he opened his front door, a manila envelope taped to the glass stopped him cold, its bold scrawl screaming, "Open now." It wasn't just the words that chilled him. It was the gut-wrenching certainty that whatever lay inside would change everything. The 38-year-old architect, with weary green eyes and a life built on steady routines, tore it open with trembling hands. Inside was a single photograph, grainy but unmistakable. His wife, Lillian, 36, draped in a sleek black dress, sat in a dimly lit bar, leaning close to a younger man, their faces inches apart, his hand resting too comfortably on her knee. Ethan's breath caught, his mind reeling. Lillian, the woman he'd danced with under a starlit sky at their wedding 5 years ago, whose laugh once filled this house with warmth, betraying him? He flipped the photo over, desperate for some explanation, but found only a handwritten note in the same jagged scrawl. "This is just the beginning. You deserve the truth." No signature. No hint of who sent it. His heart pounded as he dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. Lillian had been distant lately, her excuses about late work meetings growing flimsier each week. But this was a knife to the gut, twisting with every second he stared at the image. He paced the living room, the photo burning a hole in his hand. Memories of happier times flooded in Lillian's teasing grin as they planned their future. Their shared dream of a family, the way she'd rest her head on his shoulder during quiet evenings. Those moments clashed violently with the image of her with him. Denial gave way to a gnawing dread. Who was this man? Why would someone deliver this to his doorstep? The questions swirled, unanswered, as he sank onto the couch, the photo trembling in his grip. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house felt like an accusation, every shadow a reminder of the truth he couldn't unsee. The next morning, a sharp ring of the doorbell jolted Ethan from his haze. A delivery guy, rain-soaked and indifferent, handed him a small, unmarked box. "Ethan Wilson?" he asked, barely glancing up from his clipboard. Ethan nodded, his voice stuck in his throat. The box was light, too light, and bore no return address. He ripped it open right there in the doorway, his pulse racing. Inside was a single flash drive, nothing else. No note, no clue, just the cold, black plastic that seemed to pulse with secrets. Back at his laptop, Ethan hesitated, his finger hovering over the drive's icon. Whatever was on it, he wasn't sure he could handle it. But he clicked and a video file opened. The footage was shaky, clearly filmed in secret, showing a hotel hallway bathed in fluorescent light. Then she appeared, Lillian, laughing softly, her hand clasped in the same man's from the photo. They walked to a door, his arm around her waist, their ease with each other unmistakable. They slipped inside, and the door clicked shut. The video ended abruptly, leaving Ethan staring at a blank screen, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a prank. His wife was cheating on him, and someone wanted him to know. Someone who knew exactly where he lived. Rage surged, but so did a chilling realization. This was deliberate. Whoever sent the photo and the drive wasn't just exposing Lillian's betrayal. They were pulling Ethan into a game he didn't understand. He thought of her recent secrecy, the way she'd guard her phone, the way she'd pull away when he reached for her. How long had this been going on? And what else was she hiding? Ethan's first instinct was to confront her, to demand answers, but Lillian wasn't home. She hadn't been since last night. "Another work meeting," she texted, her words now dripping with deceit. His calls went unanswered, his texts unread. The silence was deafening, amplifying his fury and fear. He needed answers, and he needed them now. Grabbing his phone, he dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Caitlin Reed, a private investigator known for digging up truths others buried. "Caitlin," he said when she picked up, his voice low but steady. "I need your help. Someone's trying to tell me something about my wife, and I need to know who and why. Caitlin's voice was calm, professional, a lifeline in the storm. Send me everything you've got. I'll start digging. Ethan emailed her scans of the photo, the note, and the video, his hands shaking as he typed. As he hit send, a memory flashed. Lillian's face glowing with pride when he landed his first big architectural contract, her hands squeezing his as they toasted to their future. Had that been a lie too? The thought twisted the knife deeper. He looked at the flash drive again, its sleek surface mocking him. This wasn't just about Lillian's affair. Someone was orchestrating this, someone with a motive he couldn't yet grasp. He stood, pacing the room, the rain outside a constant roar. The house felt foreign now, its walls closing in with every unanswered question. Who was the man in the photo? Why was Lillian with him? And most unsettling of all, what did the note mean by "this is just the beginning"? Ethan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of the past months. Lillian's late nights, her guarded phone, the way she'd flinch at his touch. He'd chalked it up to stress, to the grind of their busy lives. Now he saw it for what it was, a carefully constructed lie. As he waited for Caitlin's call, Ethan made a decision. He wouldn't confront Lillian, not yet. If this was a game, he'd play it smarter than whoever was pulling the strings. He'd find the truth, not just about her betrayal, but about the person who'd thrust it into his hands. The photo, the video, they were pieces of a puzzle, and Ethan was determined to solve it. Lillian might have thought she could hide her secrets, but she'd underestimated him. And whoever sent that envelope, they'd just awakened a man who wasn't going to stop until every lie was exposed. The Seattle skyline was a blur of gray as Ethan Wilson sat in his dimly lit home office, the flash drive still plugged into his laptop, its secrets now seared into his mind. 2 days had passed since the manila envelope shattered his world, and Lillian's absence, still cloaked in vague texts about work, only deepened the wound. Ethan's eyes burned from lack of sleep, but his resolve was ironclad. He would uncover the truth, no matter how ugly. Caitlin Reed's call came just as the rain began to pound harder against the windows. "I've got something," she said, her voice sharp with urgency. "Meet me at my office. Now." Caitlin's office, tucked in a gritty corner of Pioneer Square, smelled of coffee and old leather. She slid a folder across her desk, her piercing gaze locked on Ethan. The guy in the photo? Nathan Crow, 28. A con artist with a rap sheet longer than a rainy season. He targets women with money, charms them, then drains their accounts. She tapped a grainy mugshot of the man. Sharp jaw, slick smile, the same face from the bar. Ethan's stomach churned. "And Lillian?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Caitlin leaned forward. "She's been wiring him money. $80,000 from your joint account, funneled to an offshore account in the Caymans. Regular transfers, starting 6 months ago." Ethan's vision blurred, not from tears but from rage. 6 months. Half a year of lies while he worked late to build their future. "There's more," Caitlin said, sliding a photo from the folder. It showed Lillian and Nathan at a waterfront restaurant, laughing, her hand brushing his. "This was last week." Ethan gripped the folder, his knuckles white. "Who sent the evidence?" he demanded. Caitlin's expression darkened. "Emily Ward, one of Nathan's old marks. She lost everything to him 2 years ago, savings, home, the works. She's been tracking him ever since. And when she saw Lillian with him, she decided to warn you." Ethan's mind raced. Emily wasn't just a whistleblower. She was a wild card, driven by vengeance. Could he trust her? Or was she playing her own game? Before he could process it, his phone buzzed with a notification. An email from an unknown law firm. Subject: divorce proceedings. His heart sank as he opened it. Lillian was filing for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and demanding half their assets. The words hit like a sucker punch, She wasn't just cheating. She was planning her exit, ready to walk away with his life's work. Attached was a letter from her lawyer, Julian Gray, requesting a meeting. Ethan's fury surged, but Caitlin's voice cut through. She's covering her tracks. We need to move fast. That night, Caitlin called with a lead. Lillian was spotted at the port of Seattle, retrieving a suitcase from a storage locker. She's planning to skip town, Caitlin said. Ethan didn't hesitate. They drove through the rain-slicked streets, the port's cranes looming like skeletal giants. In the shadows, they saw her, Lillian, in a dark coat, clutching a bag. Ethan's heart pounded as he stepped forward, but a truck's headlights flashed, and she bolted, vanishing into a waiting car. Damn it, Caitlin muttered. She knows we're onto her. Back home, Ethan's phone lit up with another blow. Lillian had posted on social media a tearful photo paired with a caption. Sometimes you have to escape a marriage that suffocates you. I'm choosing myself. The comments exploded. Friends, colleagues, even strangers piling on with sympathy, painting Ethan as the villain. How could you let her suffer? One message read. His blood boiled. She wasn't just betraying him. She was rewriting their story, turning him into the monster. Ethan's hands shook as he stared at the post, but Caitlin's words echoed. Move fast. He wasn't going to let Lillian control the narrative. He called Sarah Lawson, a sharp-tongued attorney who'd handled his firm's contracts. Sarah, he said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. Lillian's trying to bury me. I need you to fight dirty, but legal. Sarah didn't flinch. Send me everything Caitlin's got. We'll hit her where it hurts. The truth. As Ethan forwarded the evidence, a new message pinged his inbox. Anonymous but chilling. Check the drive again. There's more. His pulse spiked. He reopened the flash drive, finding a hidden file he'd missed. A grainy audio clip. Lillian's voice, clear as day, speaking to Nathan. Once the divorce is through, we're set. He'll never see it coming. Nathan laughed, his tone cold. And when he's broke, we disappear. The clip ended, and Ethan's world tilted. This wasn't just an affair. It was a plot to ruin him. He stood, the rain outside a roar, his resolve hardening. Lillian thought she could outsmart him, but she'd miscalculated. Emily's evidence, Caitlin's digging, Sarah's legal arsenal. Ethan was building a case that would expose every lie. But the anonymous message gnawed at him. Was Emily behind it, or was someone else pulling strings? The game was escalating, and Ethan was no longer just a betrayed husband. He was a man with nothing to lose, ready to fight for his life. The Seattle dawn broke gray and heavy, mirroring the weight on Ethan Wilson's shoulders as he stared at his phone. Lillian's social media post still glowing on the screen. Her tearful photo and calculated words. Sometimes you have to escape a marriage that suffocates you. Had turned their private betrayal into a public spectacle, painting Ethan as the heartless husband. Friends he hadn't spoken to in years flooded his inbox with accusations. How could you hurt her? The sting wasn't just Lillian's lies. It was how easily the world believed them. But Ethan wasn't the broken man she expected. The audio clip from the flash drive. Lillian plotting with Nathan Crow to fleece him. Burned in his mind, fueling a fire that wouldn't let him back down. Caitlin Reed's office was a war room by midday, papers strewn across her desk, her laptop open to bank records tracing Lillian's transfers to Nathan's offshore account. She's not just running, Caitlin said, her voice clipped. She's desperate. Nathan's gone dark, cashed out $80,000 and vanished. Lillian's accounts are frozen. She's got nothing left. Ethan's jaw tightened. The con artist had conned the con, leaving Lillian to face the fallout alone. But her social media stunt showed she wasn't done fighting. She's trying to bury me before I bury her, Ethan said, his voice low, resolute. Sarah Lawson, Ethan's attorney, leaned against the desk, her sharp eyes scanning the evidence. Lillian's playing the victim to sway public opinion, and maybe a judge. We need to counter this, but smart. No mudslinging, just facts. Ethan nodded, his mind racing. The anonymous audio clip was damning, but Caitlin had uncovered more. Encrypted emails between Lillian and Nathan, buried on the flash drive's hidden partition. Caitlin cracked them open, revealing Lillian's complicity in Nathan's scams. Not just their affair, but her role in targeting other women, funneling money through shell accounts. She wasn't just cheated, Caitlin said. She was his partner. Ethan's stomach twisted. Lillian wasn't a victim of Nathan's charm. She'd been an accomplice, profiting from others' ruin. The betrayal cut deeper, but it also gave him leverage. We go public, Ethan decided, his voice steady despite the storm inside. But we do it right. Clean, undeniable. Sarah drafted a statement, attaching redacted bank records, the waterfront photo, and a transcript of the audio clip. Ethan hesitated, his finger hovering over the post button. Once this went live, there'd be no turning back. He thought of their wedding, Lillian's vows promising forever. Lies. He hit send. The response was swift. Ethan's post spread across Seattle's online circles, shared by colleagues, neighbors, even strangers. People who'd rallied behind Lillian's sob story began to waver, their comments shifting. Is this true? She lied? Local blogs picked it up, headlines screaming. Seattle architect exposes wife's fraud in divorce battle. Ethan's phone buzzed with support, but also venom. Lillian's diehard friends calling him a liar, a bully. He ignored them, his focus razor-sharp. Lillian's narrative was crumbling, and she knew it. Then came the bombshell. Emily Ward, the woman who'd sent the envelope, contacted Ethan through an encrypted email. Meet me. I have more. Caitlin vetted the message, confirming Emily's identity. A 40-year-old former realtor, bankrupted by Nathan's scams, now hellbent on his downfall. They met at a quiet diner near Lake Union, rain streaking the windows. Emily's eyes were hard, her voice low. Lillian wasn't just Nathan's lover, she said, sliding a USB stick across the table. She helped him blackmail his marks. There's proof on here, messages, wire transfers, even a list of targets. Ethan's pulse spiked. Why trust me with this? He asked. Emily's lips twitched. Because you're not like her. You want justice, not revenge. Back at Caitlin's office, the USB revealed a goldmine. Lillian's emails to Nathan, detailing how they'd extort vulnerable women, threatening to expose their affairs unless they paid up. Ethan felt sick, but also empowered. This wasn't just about his marriage anymore. It was about stopping a predator. But a new message from the anonymous sender. You're close, but she's not done. Sent a chill down his spine. Was Emily the sender, or was someone else watching? Caitlin's tech guy traced the email to a burner account, untrackable. The game was deepening, and Ethan was caught in its web. Lillian struck back that evening. A local news channel aired her tearful interview, her voice trembling as she accused Ethan of spreading lies to destroy her. She'd hired a PR firm, spinning her story with polished finesse, claiming the bank transfers were loans to a friend. The reporter lapped it up, and social media reignited with #SaveLillian posts. Ethan's resolve wavered for a moment. Could he win against her machine? But Sarah was unfazed. She's overplaying her hand, she said. This PR stunt makes her look guilty. We've got the evidence. Let's use it. Caitlin uncovered Lillian's next move. A one-way ticket to Vancouver, booked for the next day. She's running again, Caitlin said. Ethan's mind flashed to the port, her silhouette slipping away. He wouldn't let her escape justice. They needed to act before she crossed the border. Sarah filed an emergency motion to freeze Lillian's remaining assets, citing fraud, while Caitlin tailed her to a downtown hotel. Ethan joined her, heart pounding, as they watched Lillian check in under an alias. We've got her, Caitlin whispered, but Ethan's gut twisted. Lillian was cornered, and cornered animals were dangerous. As they planned their next step, Ethan's phone pinged with another anonymous message. Look closer at the list. He opened Emily's USB, scanning the blackmail targets. One name stopped him cold. Abigail Harper, Lillian's younger sister. Lillian had targeted her own family, threatening to expose Abigail's past to extort money. Ethan's anger flared white-hot. This wasn't just betrayal. It was monstrous. He forwarded the list to Sarah, who grinned like a shark. This changes everything. If Abigail testifies, Lillian's done. Ethan stood in the rain outside the hotel, the city's lights blurring around him. Lillian thought she could outrun her lies, but the truth was closing in. Emily's proof, Abigail's potential testimony, the anonymous sender's cryptic nudges. Every piece was a weapon, but the sender's shadow loomed. Were they an ally, or was Ethan a pawn in a bigger scheme? One thing was certain. Lillian's empire of deceit was cracking, and Ethan would be the one to bring it down. The Seattle courthouse loomed like a fortress under a slate-gray sky, its stone walls amplifying the tension coiling in Ethan Wilson's chest. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation, the packed gallery buzzing as he took his seat beside Sarah Lawson, his attorney, whose steely calm was his anchor. Across the room, Lillian sat next to her lawyer, Julian Gray, her face a mask of defiance, but her trembling hands betrayed her. She'd spun a web of lies, social media sob stories, a polished PR campaign, tearful news interviews. But today, Ethan held the truth, and it was sharper than any blade. Sarah leaned in, her voice low. We've got her, Ethan. The evidence is airtight, and Abigail's testimony will break her. Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. The revelation that Lillian had blackmailed her own sister, Abigail, was a gut punch, but it was also the key to unraveling her empire of deceit. Emily Ward's USB, with its damning emails and blackmail list, had exposed Lillian's role in Nathan Crow's scams. The anonymous sender's cryptic nudge, look closer at the list, had led them here, but their identity remained a shadow, a puzzle Ethan couldn't shake. The judge, a stern woman with gray streaks in her hair, called the session to order. Julian rose first, his polished tone dripping with rehearsed sincerity. Your Honor, this is a case of irreconcilable differences, a marriage strained by mutual neglect. My client seeks a fair division of assets. His words were smooth, but Ethan saw the flicker of unease in Lillian's eyes. She knew what was coming. Sarah stood, her presence commanding. Your Honor, this is not about differences. This is about betrayal, fraud, and calculated deceit. She held up a folder, its contents meticulously compiled by Caitlin Reed. Mrs. Wilson transferred $80,000 from a joint account to Nathan Crow, a known con artist, without my client's consent. These bank records prove it. She projected the waterfront photo of Lillian and Nathan, their laughter frozen in time, then played the audio clip. Lillian's voice, cold and conspiratorial, plotting to ruin Ethan. The gallery gasped, whispers rippling through the room. Julian objected, claiming the transfers were loans. But Sarah was relentless. Loans don't hide in offshore accounts, she said, presenting Caitlin's decrypted emails. Mrs. Wilson wasn't a victim of Mr. Crow. She was his accomplice, aiding his blackmail schemes against multiple women. She displayed Emily's evidence, Lillian's messages to Nathan, detailing extortion plans. The judge's eyes narrowed, her pen pausing over her notes. Then came Julian's counterstrike. He produced a series of text messages, allegedly from Ethan, threatening to destroy Lillian if she left him. The gallery murmured, and Ethan's heart sank. Those texts were fake, but they painted him as vindictive. Sarah didn't flinch. Your Honor, these messages are fabricated, she said, presenting a forensic report from Caitlin's tech expert. The timestamps don't align with Mr. Wilson's phone records, and the IP traces to a device linked to Mr. Gray's firm. Julian paled, his composure cracking as the judge shot him a withering look. "Care to explain, counselor?" she asked. Julian stammered, his defense crumbling. The room held its breath as Sarah called her next witness. Abigail Harper, Lillian's younger sister. Abigail, 32, with tired eyes and a trembling voice, took the stand. "Lillian forced me to lie for her," she said, her words heavy with guilt. "She threatened to expose my past. A mistake from years ago, unless I paid her. She said it was to protect the family, but it was control." The gallery fell silent, stunned. Lillian's mask shattered. She gripped the table, her face ashen. "Abigail, how could you?" she hissed, but the judge's gavel silenced her. Sarah wasn't done. She called Emily Ward, who strode to the stand, her gaze unflinching. "I lost everything to Nathan Crow," Emily said, her voice steady. "Lillian helped him. She sent me threats, demanding money to keep my secrets buried." Emily presented a printed email from Lillian, its cold tone undeniable. The evidence was a sledgehammer, smashing Lillian's victim narrative to pieces. Ethan watched her shrink, her defiance melting into panic. Lillian took the stand, her voice shaky but defiant. "I made mistakes, Your Honor," she said, tears welling. "Ethan was distant, always working. Nathan made me feel seen. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Her words rang hollow, a desperate plea. Sarah pounced. "Mistakes?" she said, her tone cutting. "Blackmailing your sister, defrauding your husband, and aiding a criminal aren't mistakes. They're choices." Lillian opened her mouth, but no words came. She slumped, defeated, as the judge called a recess. Outside, Ethan stood in the rain, the city's hum a distant pulse. Sarah joined him, her expression triumphant but cautious. "We've got her, but she might try one last play," she warned. Ethan nodded, his mind on the anonymous sender. A new message had arrived during the hearing. "She's not the only one you should watch." His gut twisted. Was Nathan still in play, or was someone closer pulling strings? Caitlin was already tracing the message, but the burner account led nowhere. Back in the courtroom, the judge's voice was firm. "Mrs. Wilson, the evidence is overwhelming. Your actions constitute fraud and breach of trust." She ordered a temporary asset freeze and scheduled a final hearing. Lillian's eyes burned into Ethan as she left, a mix of fury and fear. She wasn't broken yet, but the cracks were spreading. Ethan stepped into the drizzle, his resolve unshaken. Abigail's testimony, Emily's courage, Sarah's precision. They'd turned the tide. But the sender's warning lingered. Lillian's lies were unraveling, but the game wasn't over. Someone was still out there, watching, waiting. Ethan didn't know who they were, but he'd find them. For now, he'd savor the moment. Lillian's empire was falling, and he was the one wielding the truth. The Seattle rain had softened to a drizzle, but Ethan Wilson felt a storm still raging inside as he stood outside the courthouse, the judge's ruling echoing in his mind. Lillian's empire of lies, built on betrayal, fraud, and blackmail, had crumbled in that courtroom, and Ethan had been the one to topple it. Yet victory didn't taste as sweet as he'd imagined. It was bitter, tinged with the weight of a marriage lost and a truth uglier than he'd ever anticipated. At 38, he was free, but freedom came with scars, and the anonymous sender's shadow lingered, a final piece of the puzzle he couldn't place. Inside, the judge had delivered her verdict with unflinching clarity. "Mrs. Wilson," she said, her voice cutting through the tense silence, "your actions constitute fraud, breach of trust, and complicity in criminal activity." Lillian, pale and diminished, sat motionless as the judge awarded Ethan the majority of their assets, including their Capitol Hill home, and ordered Lillian to pay restitution for the $80,000 she'd siphoned to Nathan Crow. A separate criminal investigation into her blackmail scheme was pending, sparked by Emily Ward's evidence and Abigail Harper's testimony. Lillian left the courtroom without a word, her once defiant gaze hollow, her PR-fueled victim narrative shattered. Ethan's phone buzzed as he stepped into the courthouse lobby. A new message from the anonymous sender. Justice is served, but watch your back. His pulse quickened. Caitlin Reed, ever vigilant, was already tracing the message, but like the others, it led to a dead end. A burner account untrackable. It's not Emily, Caitlin said, her brow furrowed. She's been up front with us. This feels bigger. Ethan's mind churned. Was Nathan Crow still pulling strings from wherever he'd fled? Or was someone closer, Julian Gray perhaps, playing a deeper game? The uncertainty gnawed, but Ethan pushed it aside. He'd won this battle. He'd face the next when it came. Sarah Lawson clapped him on the shoulder, her grin sharp. You did it, Ethan. She's got nothing left. No money, no allies, no story. But Ethan's thoughts drifted to Abigail, who'd faced her sister's wrath to tell the truth, and Emily, whose courage had exposed Lillian's crimes. They'd given him more than evidence. They'd shown him what it meant to stand up. It wasn't just me, he said quietly. They carried this as much as I did. That evening, Ethan returned to the house he'd once shared with Lillian. The walls felt empty, stripped of her presence, but heavy with memories. He found a letter slipped under the door, Lillian's handwriting unmistakable. Ethan, I'm sorry. I lost myself and I destroyed us. I don't expect forgiveness, but I owe you the truth. She admitted to everything, her affair, her role in Nathan's scams, her betrayal of Abigail. The letter ended with a plea. Don't let my mistakes define you. Ethan stood by the fireplace, the paper trembling in his hands. For a moment, he saw the Lillian he'd loved, the one who dreamed with him under the stars. Then he tossed the letter into the flames, watching it curl and blacken. Forgiveness wasn't his to give, not yet, but he could let go for himself. The next morning, Ethan met Sarah for coffee at a cafe overlooking Puget Sound. What's next? She asked, her tone lighter now. Ethan took a sip, the warmth grounding him. I'm starting over, he said. Sold the house. I'm opening my own architectural firm. He'd already secured a contract to design a community arts center, a project that felt like a beacon after the darkness. Sarah raised her cup. To new beginnings. Ethan smiled, the first real smile in months. To the truth. Weeks later, Ethan stood on the site of the arts center, blueprints in hand, the Seattle skyline gleaming under a rare, clear sky. Caitlin had news. Nathan Crow had been spotted in Mexico, but the anonymous sender remained a ghost. We'll keep digging, she promised, but Ethan shook his head. Let it go, Caitlin. I've got what I need. The sender had pushed him toward justice, but their motives didn't matter anymore. He'd reclaimed his life, not because of them, but because he'd chosen to fight. Abigail reached out, thanking him for giving her the strength to break free from Lillian's control. Emily, too, sent a note. You gave me closure. Keep building. Their words anchored him, reminders that truth wasn't just about exposing lies. It was about creating something better. Lillian, he heard, had left Seattle, her reputation in tatters, facing charges that would shadow her for years. Ethan felt no glee, only relief. She'd made her choices. He was making his. As he walked the site, the city's pulse humming around him, Ethan thought of the envelope that started it all. It had torn his world apart, but it had also set him free. The anonymous sender, Nathan's escape, Lillian's fall. They were chapters closing. Ahead lay a blank page, one Ethan would write himself. He looked at the skyline, the arts center's future rising in his mind, and felt something new, hope. The rain had stopped, and so had the storm inside him. Whatever came next, he was ready.